Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Audra May. Audra May, Mrs. May, whatever, Coach May, however you want to refer to me. And we are so glad that we get an opportunity to talk to you again. How we wish it were in person, but this will have to do for now. Rules are the same, if there really are any rules. If you'll just hold your questions till the end, and that way they're all kind of gathered in one spot so that we can answer them quickly. And we hope that at this point, that we've answered a lot of your big questions already, and so we're trying to cover the things that may have changed since the last time we spoke, or address some of the questions that some of our newer families may have. And so just to give you an update on that, our enrollment is right around 450, so looking good. Keep praying for us as we try to bring people in who are not real happy with the way the public school system is going. All right, so my job today is just to remind you of our scripture for the year. Our verse for the year, our theme, is Deuteronomy 31:8. And I had an opportunity to tell our teachers this past week just how confident I feel about this verse. I feel like the Lord has just confirmed it over and over again. Our verse basically says that God goes before us, that He will never forsake us, and for that reason we are not to be afraid. And I recently learned that there are 365 verses in the Bible that talk about not being afraid and that God will be with us. But the verse that I've seen over and over again in just sermons and devotionals has been this particular verse, Deuteronomy 31:8. So the odds of that are, as I confirmed with our math teachers, 1 out of 365. So we feel very confident that that the Lord is leading us in this direction, that He really has come before us and is going before us to prepare the way for us. And so I wanted to share a little bit about that. I think that this verse is different from some of the other verses that talk about not fearing, because this verse specifically says God goes before us and that He's always with us. So the implication there is that there is some action that we're supposed to take. The action is that we've got to follow. So if God is going before us, then what He's requiring, or what He is telling us, is that we're to follow Him, we're to go with Him. And so I'm going on 16 years now at Legacy. There's been rarely a time that I have felt as called to do something as I feel to do this. And so I hope that gives you a little bit of peace. And speaking of peace, my prayer for you lately and for our staff and our kids coming to Legacy, we are praying for courageous peace. Courageous peace. I love the sound of that. Courageous peace allows us to go confidently because we know that our peace is not temporary, that it's not coming from things that will fade away, but that it's coming from God. And so that should give us confidence to move forward. And I was reminded recently about Joseph, who, through no fault of his own, was sold into slavery, wound up, serving Potiphar, and then back into the prison he went, and he could have easily given up and said, God's left me, He's not with me, and just, basically quit. But he allowed his circumstances, or didn't allow his circumstances to allow himself to spiral out of control. And so what did he do? Well, aside from praying, he put his faith into action. And I feel like that this verse is telling us that. We have to, yes, we are called to have faith, but nothing happens unless we take that faith and we put it into action. And so I think that we're being called to do that. One of the things that he did that, and the way that he went about doing it wasn't anything crazy. All he did was work on his responsibilities. He completed his tasks. He completed his responsibilities, and he just moved forward. And he did what was in front of him, and then allowed God to take care of the big picture. And so who knows what our big picture is this year? The job of my admin and our staff here is just to pray for God's direction, and we feel that God's direction is leading us forward. So we are trusting God with the big picture. And then I just want to add in our second verse, which is Ephesians 6. And I thought it was beautiful how it all tied together, because Ephesians 6:15 says that we're to be fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. The readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. And how really just empowering it is that the word readiness and peace go together. So all of these verses just sort of coming together to solidify, at least to us, our confidence that we are going to move forward in faith and a courageous peace. And I wanted to add just this one more verse. It's Proverbs 14:30, and it says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body." Life to the body. And so we're praying that for all of you. We're praying that for our first few days of school and on into the semester, that we'll have a courageous peace, and that peace will bring life to our body, our student body, to our physical body. So we're excited to finally be able to have everyone back on campus. And so in saying that, I'm going to transition into some of the other admin members here in just a second, but I wanted to give you just a bit of information that hopefully will also give you some peace. And it's just some updated statistics from the testing, COVID testing, and all of that's been going on in our community. So the first thing I want to say is this: expect that someone on this campus is going to get COVID. I just don't think there's any way around it. We can expect that, right? So at some point, while all these kids are back on campus, we're going to have to deal with that situation, and we feel like that's what we've been preparing for. We've been preparing for, quote, the worst case scenario, that someone tests positive. So we're just going to expect that no matter what we do, we can't prevent it, then that at some point that is possibly going to happen. We're moving forward, but we're expecting that might be a possibility. So I wanted to give you some information about that. What do we know? First of all, we know that over 99% of the people that get this virus recover from it. We also know that our children, thank God, are less likely to get it, and that the younger they are, the chances are even more slim. So just yesterday, we've been watching cases, and what we have seen is that the cases in Montgomery County are down again for the third day in a row, and down from triple digits down to double digits now. We've also seen hospitalizations go down. Our death rate is going down. This past week, less than 3% is the hospitalization rate in Texas, about 1% in Montgomery County. We know that 80% of all of the deaths are in people ages 65 and over, and that the death rate is so small for people under 24 that it is 0.005%. That's 0.005 of a percent. That's how small it is. So I think that gives us some courageous peace as well. We also know that there have been schools that have opened successfully. We have really tried to pay attention to them in Sweden, in Germany, in Singapore. So we're learning a lot from what we have found out. There are also schools in the state of Texas that have gone back. There's an ISD up close to Victoria, and I'm keeping a close eye on them. We're trying to follow some of the things that they're doing as well. So we would just ask you to continue to pray for our opening, a hedge of protection, peace, for our anxieties to just be cast upon the Lord, because that's where they're supposed to be. And I know that we're going to have a great start. All right, so now we're going to roll into some of the policies and procedures that we've been trying to clear up, wrap up, and make sure that you're familiar with them. I will add that the handbook is on the Legacy website, so you can go and look at that. If we do make changes, now that it's posted, we'll make sure that we're sending an email out and communicating to you what that change will be, so you don't have to go read the entire handbook to find that one little change. So we're going to start with Gina Francis first. For those of you who are new, she is our assistant head of school, and she is going to give you some information on some of our procedures as the school doors open.
Hi everyone. So as Audra mentioned, I'm going to go over some of our procedures. Many of our processes and how we do things aren't going to change from last year, but I really just want to remind you of a lot of those and how we do them. As we've mentioned, we're going to be beginning school in phase 3, which means we're going to be in person, but we're going to have no visitors on campus, especially for the first semester. I'm going to start with our car line. And so car line we have for every day of the week, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. to 8:30. Our Monday, Wednesday, Friday car line will be on the side of the gym, just as it has been. You will be able to enter through both Research Forest and Co-Lane for that day, for arrival only. If you're coming in from Research, you will be allowed just to pass, keep going straight, and enter the car line, circle there. And if you're coming from Co-Lane, then you're going to turn, go under the covered area. You're going to stop at the stop sign and then take a right and proceed through the car line. Once you get there, we're going to have staff members at 8 different locations. They're going to get your kids out, so there's no need for you to get out of your car. We can help your students there. So we're going to ask you just stay in your vehicles then. And one thing I want to remind you of that I forgot the other day is please, once your kid gets out, don't pass a car while we're unloading in this zone. There are kids that get out from all different sides. They're running around, so please don't pass a car. Wait for the car in front of you to move, and then you can proceed out. The exit is going to be Research Forest only. And so as you exit the car line, we're going to ask you to go down the drive. And once you get to Research, we're going to ask you also to take a right. Taking a left in the mornings is very difficult. People going to work, other school schedules and whatnot. It starts to back up. So please, everyone, take a right when they get there. If you are a Tuesday, Thursday parent, you're going to be dropping off and picking up at our front lobby. So you'll have the same process. You'll come in either through Research or Co. And you'll just proceed under the covered area. And again, we'll have about 4 stations there and getting your kids out and into the school. Once the, about car line too, one more thing. I don't know if I said this earlier, but please no cell phones at any point in the car line. Once your kids get out of the vehicle, so middle high school students are going to go to the gym and elementary kids are going to go to the lunchroom. And we do have dots spaced out there so they'll be properly distanced apart. And we're going to hold them there for about 10 to 15 minutes. Or if it starts to fill up prior to that, then we'll go ahead and dismiss them. But they'll be dismissed around 8:15 and they'll go to class. I do want to remind students in 6th grade and up that arrival is that masks are required. So they will need to have their mask up at arrival time while they transition into the gym. Once they are seated, they will be able to take their mask down, and then they'll need to mask up again as they transition to class. Then I'll move on to lunch and recess. Couple of reminders, please no microwavable foods. We also ask that there be no peanut products. Nut butters are fine. Masks are not going to be required during lunch as they eat, but it will be required in their transition from their class to the lunchroom. And one thing we're having to do differently this year than we did last year is we're having to split the lunches. So for both elementary and middle school, while one group is eating, another group is going to be recessing, and then we'll flip them. And so we're doing that both in the elementary lunch period for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the middle school lunch period there. Recesses, that'll still be fine. Each grade level, everyone has a recess period of about 20 minutes. Outside, it's properly covered by staff and teachers and whatnot. And we'll do our best keeping them socially distant and sanitizing any equipment that they use and whatnot. As far as dismissal, all days dismiss at 3:15. And dismissal, the car line route is going to be, you're going to enter through Research only. So in our afternoon, the co-lane gate will be closed. So co-lane will be closed from 8:30 till about 3 o'clock. And so the only way to enter the school after that period is going to be Research Forest. So for dismissal, cars start lining up early. So I just want to warn you, as you come in through Research, you're going to take the first right and you're going to make a kind of snake around so that we can get as many cars in on the campus as possible. That first car is going to go all the way up to the number 1 spot, and then we'll just start filing in behind that. We start calling names promptly at 3:15. And again, the students are going to be positioned just like they were in the morning. We're going to have elementary kids in the lunchroom on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the high school, middle school kids in the gym. On Tuesday, Thursday, those kids will dismiss they're going to stay in their classrooms, and we're going to dismiss them right from the front lobby. So you'll pick them up just as you drop them off. Want to remind everyone, you have to have a car rider sign to pick up your student. No kid will be allowed in a vehicle without a car rider sign. So put them on your dash, hang them on your rearview mirror, whatever works best for you, but we need those in your car visible all the way till you pick up your student. If you don't have a car rider sign, or someone picking your child up doesn't have a sign, they will need to park and come into the front lobby to get verified. Any changes in car line must happen by 2:30. Do not text staff members or anyone after that time. Any changes will have to happen through the front, through Miss Karen Beeman. We will load all students in the cars as they're in the car line. When we are done loading, any students remaining in the gym will go to the front lobby. So if you get to pick up your kid in the afternoon and that door is closed, you'll need to go around to the lobby and pick them up there. And we do have a late pickup fee, which is $5 for every 10 minutes that you're late. I also want to just remind you, do not text your children, especially if they're older, middle and high school. You might have an appointment that you need them and you tell them to quickly come meet you at the side lot or at the portable area or something like that. Please do not text your children during dismissal. We have a mask up, mask down theme. Face masks, shields, or gaiters are all acceptable options for your students 6th grade and up. Just to remind you, a mask up is during arrival, dismissal, and while in common areas and transition times, including but not limited to hallways, locker rooms, bathrooms, stairwells, the elevator, and possibly specific classroom situations where physical distancing is impossible. The mask down times are going to be while they're seated at their desk or properly physically distanced outdoors, except at specific times of the day, including morning arrival and afternoon departure, and while eating. We're going to remind you again, there are no visitors on campus this first quarter. We do hope that the mandate gets lifted and we get to change that for our second quarter. And I want to tell you that when we do get to that time, I want to remind you, if you haven't done so yet, when you arrive, you will need to run your driver's license through our Raptor system. We also, no one is going to be allowed to enter a classroom unless it's been arranged by the teacher. So we do our best to protect our teachers' time, so any classroom visits need to be arranged through them first. Allergies and medications, I think our health services office is going to cover that for you later, but I just want to remind you that any and all medical conditions, medications, prescriptions, anything like that must go through their office first. Cell phones, I think our principals might cover that in a little more detail, but just a quick reminder, elementary students are not to have a cell phone or device at all with them at any time on campus. Middle and high school, I think they have specific limitations that I'll let their principals cover. Okay, elementary Friday electives and the third day option for 5th graders. So arrival for that and dismissal will happen the same as it does on Mondays and Wednesdays. So if you're a Tuesday, Thursday parent used to dropping off in the front, on these days you will drop off at the gym area. They have a little bit of different dress code for Fridays. The elective kids, they can wear a spirit shirt, athletic shorts or pants. Tennis shoes are most comfortable for them. The 5th graders, we give them this opportunity to be like the middle schoolers. So they can wear their spirit gear on Fridays along with jeans or uniform bottoms. We also want to remind all our students to bring personal water bottles. We have shut off the touchable or the touch portion of the water fountains, but we do have the touchless filling stations. So just a reminder to have your child with a water bottle each day that they're here on campus. Lastly, I want to remind you to read the weekly email. We do our best as a staff to put all of our information into one document and get it out to you. I can tell you 75% of the emails I end up answering could be answered by just reading the email. So I just want to thank each of you again for entrusting us with your kids this year, and I look forward to seeing them on the 17th and 18th. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move to Ms. Bontrager. She is our elementary principal, and she's going to give you some tips, tricks, and feedback for elementary.
Well, welcome elementary. We're very excited to all of our co-teachers to join us today. And we kind of want to make a distinction this year in our elementary program as a lower elementary and upper elementary. We'd like to distinguish our lower elementary as being pre-K through 2nd grade and our upper elementary to be 3rd to 5th grade. And the reason we want to do this is because in the lower grades, pre-K through 2nd, it is more guided practice, there is more hand-holding, less independence, and so we want our co-teachers to operate in that manner. So you will see a distinction by the time they get into 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, that there is less hand-holding and more accountability. So we really want to adhere to the family handbook. So if you haven't read about late policies on absence work, we encourage you to do that. And be prepared for your teachers to follow that in the classroom as well. And I just want to encourage all of our co-teachers this year to just be prepared. We had a great speech yesterday from Miss Fleming, who shared some little tips that she had for her home days, and it was a lot about organization. And so the more prepared that you are, like read over your lesson plans as soon as you print them out, know what you need for the week. Make sure that you've got all of the required work from your teacher, and if you haven't, email her immediately, which leads me into the next thing we want to remind our co-teachers of, which is communication. Communication is a wonderful thing that we have amongst one another as co-teachers and our classroom teachers, and we want that close partnership. We want that bond to be built, and so we encourage you to reach out to your classroom teacher. But we also ask that you remember our scripture that we always ask you to follow, which is in Colossians 3, verses 12 through 14. I read this to our new co-teachers yesterday, and I'd like to read it one more time for all of our co-teachers, which reminds us that, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion and kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievance you may have against one another, and forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. And I think this is a great scripture that each of us could put in our lives, because we see our nation at this time, there's not a lot of unity. And in situations when we're emailing our teacher and trying to get clarity on some things, sometimes the frustration our own student may causes us to lose our focus and our purpose. And you really can't read intent or tone in an email. So just remember this verse, put it up, and remember our classroom teachers are working very hard. Some will be able to answer you within the hour in the elementary, and some will not. Many of our elementary teachers work 4 days a week, but they will answer you while they're trying to eat a sandwich for lunch or before or after school, and they're working hard to get back to you in a very timely manner. So if you find yourself in a spiraling event of more than 4 emails back and forth over one subject with your teacher, please just stop and ask for a phone call. You might get more clarity that way and get your problems resolved. Another thing that we wanted to bring up from the family handbook that we saw was kind of uncertain with some of our existing families was planned family vacations. We ask, because we are a university model, that you not take a planned family vacation during the school year, because our teachers will be adhering to the 25-point deduction off of assignments. So we ask that you really read that policy in your family handbook. And the last thing, I guess, that I would say is that I look forward to this year. 2020 started off a little different than many of us anticipated, but that's okay, because God's got bigger things. And I think He's using us for such a time as this, that we get to show how great and mighty a God we serve. So I look forward to the new school year. I look forward to when we're all back on campus together and things are back to phase 1.
Thank you, Ms. Bontrager. We're going to transition now to the other Mrs. Jones, as she likes to call herself, Amanda Jones, who is our new middle school principal.
All right. I'm so looking forward to this school year. This is my first year as a principal and on the administration team. I've worked at Legacy for 4 years, teaching various classes in the middle and high school and helping with some support admin, but I'm delighted to be a part of the administration this year. My goal for the middle school this year is to try to establish its own identity through, as much as we're allowed, events, meetings, things like that. I'd like us to be separate and the students to know that they're valued and they're important, and that middle school we're moving forward with. Part of Audra's plan was to establish a more solidified middle school, and that's what I'm here to help us do. My aim and vision for middle school is the first and most important aim that's listed in our handbook. So as you're reading the handbook, you can see that, I think it's on like page 3 or 4, right at the beginning, is to love and glorify God with all that we do. So whether that's with cell phones or computers or dress code or discipline or demerits, all of those things, we want to be doing that in a way that will love and glorify God. And that's what I would like to talk with the students about as well when I get a chance at orientation next week. A couple new things this year I just wanted to hit with all of you, since we have a moment to have everyone together. The computer situation is new this year. Previously we had Chromebooks. Now you have purchased a computer. I believe everyone has purchased one. We're just going to give you a little bit of an update that they're not all in. About a third or so of them are here. They're coming in little by little in increments each day. So you will get those, your students will get those at orientation, the ones that have already come in. And it's Chris has a system where as you ordered first come, the first people that put them in, those are the ones that are coming in, you'll get yours. So not all of your students will get them on Wednesday, but hopefully they'll be here by the first day of school. The ones who are not here by the first day of school, maybe you ordered late or you're brand new to the school, we will be issuing one of the old Chromebooks for you to use for a few weeks in that gap time until your computer gets here and it's ready for you. Another thing that's new this year is that students grades 6 through 12 will now have 2 email addresses. Last year, and previous years, they always had the ums.legacypca.org. This year, we will be adding one because the new PCs require that we use that, as well as the Google Classroom requires the UMS. I know that's confusing and it can be hard for students. So our plan is, Mr. Huckabee's working with the history department, and on the first day of school in their history class, the students will be taught how to forward one email to the other one and then put it on their new computer so that they have that first day going forward. They know what to do with it. I know it's hard to manage multiple email addresses. You probably know that. We knew that would be a hurdle, and that's our plan. So Mr. Huckabee's working with the history department to make that happen for us. Another changes in the portables, I just want to talk about the spacing and some things out there. We worked with the teachers this week. We all went out there, looked through the classrooms. We removed furniture. We did whatever we could to space those desks at least 3 to 6 feet apart so that the students will be properly spaced so that they do not have to wear their masks the entire class period. Also, we've purchased air purifiers to go in each portable so that we could help with some of the ventilation issues out there. The teachers will also be allowed to crack the windows and crack the door occasionally to make sure that the air is safe and pure as best we can from our side of things. You also should have gotten a teacher video this morning. At some point this morning, you probably got a few of them from all your teachers. They were told to email you a video and their syllabus. Some of them are 2 minutes long. I watched a couple this morning that were closer to 10 to 15. So that's their chance to give you any policies, plans, procedures they have for their classrooms. So please watch that and follow along with what they're asking you to do, what the procedures are for their classroom. They were very excited to do that and get that chance to just talk with you guys one-on-one. And all of our teachers, of course, if you contact them through email, they all gave you their email addresses this morning. If you have any other questions, you can go directly to them. And then lastly, I just want to talk about orientation next week quickly. And we're doing it differently this year, as you've seen in the emails. We're doing it in increments with grade levels. So what that means is it's going to be a little bit of a tighter schedule. So for 6th and 7th grade, you're going to arrive at 1 o'clock, and you're going to arrive through the front with Miss Beeman. You're going to drop your kid off, you can leave, and they can come through. You're going to pick them up at 2 o'clock through the regular car rider side of the school. They will have, if they have their computer, they'll have that. They'll have their car rider sign with them, and they'll have, in middle school, they will have their athletic t-shirt. If they're in athletics, they will have a chance to buy that at orientation. So please remember to bring that $20. There'll be a table set up if they're registered for middle school athletics. We have a list of who that is, so if they don't know, we'll know for them, but they will be directed to go buy their shirt. And then you will pick up your 6th and 7th grader at 2 o'clock on the car rider sign, and if you purchase an EPI school pack, it will be out there. Shalana and some other teachers will be helping me distribute those as you come through that car rider. And in 8th grade, at 2 o'clock, you will come through the front with Miss Beeman, just like 6th and 7th grade did. Same thing. You'll get your computer if you have it. You'll get a chance to walk your schedule. You'll get your car rider sign. They should be ready to take home to your parents. And then you'll go out through the gym. And then there again, if you bought an EPI pack, it'll be there as well. And then the parents you'll get them at 3 o'clock. So I think that's all for student orientation. I'll probably send one more reminder email, but we are looking forward to having your students back on campus on Wednesday, and of course, for the new school year.
All right, thank you, Amanda. We're going to move to the other Mrs. Jones, which is Shannon Jones, and she is our high school principal.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. After Mrs. Bontrager's information and Mrs. Jones' information, I don't have near as much information, so they've said it all. A lot of what Mrs. Jones from junior high has said, it applies to high school also. The computer pickup, that we have spaced out classrooms. We also have some high school classes that are out in the portable, so we've done the same thing. Remove furniture and all of that good stuff. I think we've done that across campus. It's just going to be a little bit different starting, but it's going to be so much better than in the spring, being at home. So before I get well into what all I have to say, I just want to say that I'm so proud of all of our students, at middle school, high school, elementary, everybody, and parents for making it so smooth in the spring. We didn't have complaints. You just worked with us, and it was great. Just please give us that same grace now and work with this, because this is all new territory once again. But we feel like we have a really good plan for starting out the year. I will talk a little bit about orientation. As Ms. Jones says, our orientation is from 9 to 10:15 for juniors and seniors on Wednesday morning, August the 12th. And it'll run the same as she said for middle school. You will come in, we'll have a brief visit with everyone, kind of laying out some new rules and things like that. And then we'll move through their schedule, and at the end they will be picking up their computers and other information as they go out the door. So for juniors and seniors, a lot of those kids drive. You will enter through the front door for juniors and seniors at Miss Beeman's desk, and then you'll be guided to the gym to start our assembly. For 9th and 10th grade, you are going to be here by 10:30 for your orientation, and if you drive, I hope I don't have any 9th grader drivers, but if you drive, you will park and come through the front door. Otherwise, we'll be running a normal car line, and you will come in the gym door under the porte-cochere at the gym. We will also release the same way. So if a student drives, they will drive themselves home, exiting the building by Ms. Beeman's office, and otherwise you will leave out the normal car door line that we pick up in the afternoons. Please come to orientation. We feel like we have some good information. It's going to be a little bit shorter than normal, but we have a lot of good information. Also, you should have received emails from your students' teachers with a video today and a syllabus attached. I've watched the ones that came to me from my students, and I think there's some really good information in there. Just email them if you have any questions. Drivers in general, this is something I just want to say for the school year. You need to sign up to be able to have your driver's little permit signed from Mrs. Beeman at the front desk, and she will ask for your driver's license, your insurance card, and there's a fee for that. Let's ask Ms. Beeman that. I think it is $25. It may have gone to $30, but just check with her for sure on that price. If a student is parking on campus, they must have that. Entering and exiting the building. So for those students, just like for orientation, that do not drive, they will enter the building through our normal car line in the morning and exit that way in the afternoons. You will not be exiting through the teacher's parking lot. You will not be walking out front to catch a ride. You will not be riding with anyone that you're not assigned to ride home with in the afternoons. My driving students, a lot of them are juniors and seniors, like I said. They always enter through the front office with Mrs. Beeman. If you're coming in for your class, you will use your ID, and some students don't have those yet. For the new students, they will have those in the first couple of weeks of school. You scan your ID, and then when it's time for your class to start, Ms. Beeman will let you all go up to your class. Just like last year, we're going to inform our new students at New Student Orientation on Friday a little bit more on how all of that works. Also, when you're leaving our campus, where Monday through Friday, high school students must exit out the front door by Ms. Beeman's office. We do not go out any side gates. We do not go out the teacher's gate or anything like that. I don't want to write anyone up, but it's very important for safety that we account for all students that are on campus at all times. I want to talk a little bit about events. You know, high school has a lot of events that go on, and we like to do all those fun things. We're not quite sure how all of that is going to play out. We have certain things on our calendar already, like homecoming and things like that. Just continue to look into the weekly email and check those calendars, and as we have information on what we can and can't do, we're going to let you know. We want to have as many fun get-togethers and things like that as we can. We just don't really know what that's going to look like yet, but just know that we want it to happen. Those are the best times, not just for the kids, but for us too. We love having all those kids at all of those events. I know y'all don't want to hear about uniforms. We do have one small change to uniforms. In the handbook for skirts, they cannot be any shorter than 3 inches above the knee. So I know that's a challenge for some people, but I know we can do it and we can compromise on some things. We just want to look nice and as professional as possible in our uniforms. We'll just leave that at that. Otherwise, check your handbook for your proper uniform, ordering through either Lands End or the items that are in the Roar store. And we're going to have a great year with uniforms. I just know we are. If you have any questions, you can always stop by my office and I'll be able to help guide you through any of that, or give me, email me, and we can, I can answer anything you need to know about uniforms. Juniors and seniors on Tuesdays and Thursdays, seniors on Tuesdays and Thursdays will be allowed to have their dress down days. So a guideline for that is also in the handbook, so just be familiar with what you can and can't wear. If you have any questions, we can definitely talk about that. The only other thing that's going to be really different, and everybody's already talked about it, are those masks. Whether it's a mask or the neck gaiters or whatever we're going to use, those are now part of your uniform until we change it. So as of now, you must have a mask when you come to school. You will wear it during all the transitions. You will wear it if you're running to the restroom or wherever on campus you are. Once you walk in the door, take those caps off that you don't wear inside and you put your mask on. So your mask will be worn when we're in the gym, coming in the morning, and when we're just like the other ladies have already said, we have to have those on in transitions while we're on campus and in the classrooms until we're seated. We will have a couple of classes that you may have to wear your mask the entire time because of social distancing. And we're going to work the best that we can to not make that happen, but you already have your mask, so it shouldn't be a big deal. You just pull it up and we're going to just, go forward, and we're going to make this happen. We're not going to make this a big deal. What I do want to say is we're going to take this very seriously. So just like you might get a demerit if you don't have the proper uniform on, the same thing will happen with this. But now, because of the rules that we have to follow, if you do not wear your mask properly or when you're supposed to do it, you may be sent home for the day. We just have to take it very seriously. We're high school people. I know we can make it happen, and we're just not going to make it a big deal. So that's all I really want to say about mask, and I don't want to talk about mask anymore. I think that's all I have. I'm just so excited for orientation. Our new student orientation is Friday starting at 1 o'clock, and our all-school orientation for high school is next Wednesday, August the 12th, and just check the weekly email for those times again, and can't wait to see you.
Okay, we're going to begin to wrap it up. We have one more speaker, our athletic director, Clint McDonald.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us, and I hope everyone's doing well. So yes, we are going to have sports this year. Want to share with you our goal for athletics is to make God look good, and that includes in all things, whether we're on the field, off the field, at home with mom and dad, and etc. For those of you that don't know, the sports that we offer in high school are football, volleyball, cross country, boys and girls basketball, swim, baseball, golf, softball, and track and field. And this year we have now moved up to the 4A level, so it's going to be a lot more competition as well. For junior high, we include all of those sports that I named above, minus softball and swim. A lot of you already know this, but our high school and junior high sports have been backed up until September as far as our in-season rules. We are still in our summer hours right now, which consist of 90 minutes per day that we're allowed to practice. And we will remain in this mode until the first day of school, which is August 17th. And then the sports that are in season can move to their practice times longer than that. And then the athletes are required to be here for those respective sports. No games or scrimmages are allowed during this time until the week of September the 18th for the fall sports, which is football, volleyball, and cross country. And then at that time, our off-season sports, such as basketball, baseball, softball, and everyone else they're allowed to have 1 hour of day practice. Just a reminder that during this time, make sure your athletes are bringing their own water bottles. We're trying to minimize as much contact as possible with bringing out water coolers and so on and so forth. Our high school transfer deadlines, the seniors, is August the 15th. And then for anyone else that is junior, sophomore, freshman, the fall transfer deadline is September the 8th. TAPS is having weekly updates. And if anything changes as we go through this, I will make sure to communicate that to you. And yes, we are planning on having fans at our events. What that's going to look like, I'm going to wait until September 1st to put that out just because of all the changes that are possible. So just be looking for an update on that. Thank you.
Okay, well, as usual, we got pretty close to our cutoff time. I want to add just so if you guys have questions, you can go ahead and start answering those, asking those now, not answering. We'll answer, you ask. But while you're doing that, I'm going to cover just a couple of things that I thought of as we were speaking, and I just want to make sure that we're clarifying them. Number one, we are starting school in phase 3. We are in phase 3, so that means that it is school as usual, with the exception of social distancing in the classrooms and on the campus, and our middle and high school kids wearing masks. Number two, we've been saying that the kids are wearing masks in transition in the hallways. That is only middle school and high school. Elementary students do not have to wear masks in the hallways or at all. The only time we would ask an elementary student to wear a mask is if they come to a teacher and say they're not feeling well. We would put a mask on them to send them to the clinic, to the health services area. So just want to make sure that that's clear. We've mentioned that there are no visitors for the first quarter, at least for the first quarter. If there is a need for a visitor for you to come on campus, we would ask you to mask up, and we will not let you pass the lobby without the mask. Believe me, I know how many of you feel about the masks. I've heard about it all summer long. We're probably split right down the middle. 50% of you don't like them. 50% of you say we're killing grandma if we're not wearing them. So I've heard both sides of the spectrum. But this is what the order says, and we're going to follow the order. Sorry. We're going to follow the order. If you're going to come on our campus, you're going to be wearing a mask. I want to also clear up that we're not offering simultaneous virtual learning along with on-campus learning. We simply do not have the resources for that. Now, we do have 3 kids on our campus who have a medical issue that requires them to stay home. So as I sat with our health services team, what we decided for that is that in order for you to be able to do virtual learning, number one, you had to have been a student that is continuing from the 2019-2020 school year, so you are a returning student. And number two is you must have an immunocompromised or an immunosuppressed illness, disease, and those were the only 2 reasons. So we do have a couple of students that are doing that. For those students who are part of that group, you will not be allowed on campus to do fine arts or athletics or even orientation. If it's not healthy for you to be on campus for academics, then obviously not healthy to be on campus for any of those other things either. So just know that is a policy that has been put into place. Okay, I think I've touched on some of the questions that came to my mind. Let's see if we have any.
Student orientation dress.
Yeah, they want to know.
New student orientation.
All orientation.
Yeah, so dress code for that is just casual.
casual.
Yeah, come casual.
Appropriate.
With masks.
With masks.
With your casual mask. You can wear your formal mask to the prom or something.
I think they answered the car rider signs, but for elementary, they're not gonna have an orientation. Some of those were distributed this morning during co-teacher training, and others will be distributed for those of you who are coming tomorrow. And other than that, those that aren't picked up, we will distribute on the first day of school.
Okay,
Watchdog
Park-
Dads.
And so, since there are no visitors, are y'all still needing watchdog dads for our hours? We will, but we're not gonna do it the first quarter. Hopefully by the second, because we're not allowing visitors, typically we have a 20-hour volunteer, 20 hours required per family for volunteer hours. For each quarter that we're unable to have visitors, we're gonna remove 5 hours. So, is it 5 or 4?
5.
5 hours. So as of now, you're starting the year with only needing 15 hours. But we were not going to do any volunteering as far as watchdog dads at this point.
Greg Marino's a new student wanting to know about wearing a mask from the Roar store. And you can wear any mask or neck gaiter that just doesn't have anything inappropriate to wear. But yes, you may buy them from the Roar store, but it can be any kind you want.
Correct.
All right, kids wearing masks during athletics. No, they are not required to wear masks during athletics, specifically if it is outside.
So here, so if the mandate is lifted second quarter, can the masks be optional? Absolutely.
Yep.
If you want to wear one at any point, you are welcome to. Absolutely. Okay.
Cold,
With the-
going underneath.
With, where are you with fall coming? What is the procedure if our kids get a mild cold? Well, wouldn't we love to tell you? All right, so there's conflicting information. In our next segment, I'm going to have Joanna Prazak here from Health Services, and we're going to get into that. But the short answer to that is the student will be sent to the Health Services area. She'll be evaluated by whomever is serving in the clinic that day. We'll most likely call you, and if this is, let's say that your child is notorious for allergies or runny nose or watery eyes, we'll call you. If this is something unusual, most likely your child will have to go home. If this is something that is usual, we'll probably ask the child to wear a mask, and they can go back to class. But that's a decision that can be made between you and the health services area, and it really is just going to depend on the symptoms. Fever, of course, they would go home.
So going about orientation.
Okay. This is probably a middle school here.
Right.
If we've not received emails from all our kids' teachers, who do we reach out to? That's Shauna. She's middle school.
I would say give them till the end of the day. If you don't have an email from your teacher by the end of the day, or they're not emailing you, just email me and I'll reach out to the teacher and see if their video was sent and make sure it was.
So I would say reach out if it's middle school or high school. Reach out if it's high school. Reach out to Shannon. If it's middle school, reach out to Amanda.
Another middle school here.
Do you want
Amanda.
6th and 8th graders coming together? So
No,
It's
they
a
have to,
sibling.
it's separate. It
Yeah.
has to be
So
separate
it's-
for spacing, and I can't do that for one family and
Right.
make it.
Yep. So 6th grader come at their time and 8th grader
Yeah.
come at their time.
Okay. Health protocol on allergies.
Oh, the mask can it be your choice?
He was just stating a comment.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Health protocol on allergies. Why don't we talk about that in the next segment? New student orientation split by high school. They all come at the same time, but they'll be split up once they get here. Junior high and high school will be split up once they get here. Kids have reduction in their required volunteer
High school
hours since they've, that'll be, yeah, I guess, that'll.
Volunteer.
we will. We'll send an email. We'll put that in our weekly email soon about volunteer hours. Whatever we're gonna kind of follow whatever the family volunteer hours rules is, but I don't have the exact numbers on that right this minute.
Okay.
This is middle school, Amanda. Are middle school students allowed to take high school electives? Mine's enrolled in middle school health, but we were expecting her to take a high school health.
Right, if you're
This is
enrolled in health or speech or foreign language in middle school, that counts towards your high school credits. You would not need to retake those classes in high school.
Next, are there any parent volunteer hour requirements this year? I think I covered that earlier. At this point, your volunteer hours have dropped from 20 to 15.
Okay, if you didn't receive the middle school emails, check your I'm
Oh,
sorry.
great, thanks, good
That's
information.
not.
All right.
That's not good.
Well, it's not good, but it's good to know
Yeah.
that she checked it, so we
Yeah.
can
Spam.
let them look.
All right, that's, I
Okay.
don't see any more.
It
so
looks
far.
like that's all the questions that we have. All right, so I just want to remind you, we're going to be breaking at this time. We will pick up again at 2:10. And at 2:10, we'll have a representative from Health Services here, Joanna Prazak. She'll address probably most of your questions about symptoms and how we're going to handle that and who gets to stay and who has to go home and what if you've been exposed but you don't have it, all those great questions. So she will be here and she'll have the lion's share of that portion. And then we have two parents who have either had COVID or their children have had it. And so we'll hear testimonials from them about what that was like and how that affected their family. So you'll want to tune in for that. So be sure to tune in at 2:10. Oh wait, hold on, we have one
Another
more.
question. A recess.
Elementary question.
What is the regular checkout procedure at the front office? I don't know if I didn't cover that, but we asked that if you have an appointment or need to check your student out, that it needs to be done by 2:15. We're not going to do any checkouts past 2:15 in the afternoon. The procedure for that is either you can call ahead and we can get your kid up front by 2:15, or you just come in and you'll be signing them out either way with Miss Beeman at the front office. For elementary school kids in recess, will they be able to play together or will social distancing be enforced? Do you wanna-
Yes, they will be able to play at recess together. The only time in quarter 1, they may separate pre-K out a little bit to teach some protocol for the playground, because a lot of our preschoolers haven't had that experience, but there will not be social distancing on the playground. They will be able to play outside in the open area together.
So I think that might wrap it.
Okay, yeah, I think that one might do it. All right, everybody, so hopefully we'll see you again at 2:10. Like I said, we'll have Health Services here to answer your questions. I think that's most of the questions that I get via email usually relate to that. So take a break, grab a cup of coffee, and we'll see you again at 2:10. Hey everybody, we are back. Thanks for being patient with us. All right, now we're going to roll into the second part of our YouTube Live event today. This is probably where we're receiving most of our questions. So I have with us this afternoon Miss Joanna Prazak. She works in our clinic and is part of our health services group. And she's going to talk about our latest policies, the TEA, the CDC, and all of the other acronyms that we're using to try and determine what our policies will be. And I'll just throw in the caveat, because I know she's going to say it too, which is these are all very fluid. Tuesday, the TEA actually changed their guidelines again. We think that we're solid, but we're still reading through some of those, so it may be why Mrs. Prazak says this is what we think we're going to do, but we're still working on those. So like I said, we'll make sure that you're aware of all the changes. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Prazak.
Hi, my name is Joanna Prazak, and I'm a nurse here at Legacy. I will be on campus Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with the legendary Tanya Harrison, who I cannot say enough how much she has just been invaluable in preparing our school to open on time. I'm also excited to welcome my mom, Judy Bailey, who will be on campus on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This year, she's been a nurse for over 20 years in Dallas, and we're excited to have her come and join our team as well. This will be our family's 7th year here at Legacy. I have 4 kids going into the 4th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grades. And I can't tell you enough how truly blessed we feel that God has led us to this amazing school. And I love that I have this opportunity to help serve our families and our students in this way. Rest assured that our team is working very hard, and we are dedicated to providing a safe and healthy environment for your kids to return to school. We will begin with some general information we need in student health services regarding your students. I'm sorry if I read a little bit, but it's a lot of information and I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Emergency information cards. Each co-teacher should have received an email from Gina Francis with the subject Health Services Info. If you're like me and might need to dig back in your emails a little bit, it was sent on August 2nd. In this email, you will find an attachment that contains an emergency information card. Elementary parents also received this form in your green folders when you came to meet the teacher. One copy of that card is necessary for each student and will be kept in the clinic and the front office. This is where you will indicate to us if your student has any health considerations that we should be aware of. You will also indicate if your student has allergies and give permission to administer any general symptom medications that they may need on campus during the school day. If you indicate your student has a health condition or concern, we will contact you to find a little bit more about this particular condition so that we can care specifically for your student while they are on campus. So please print off and complete this emergency information card for each one of your students as soon as possible before school begins. You can bring that up to the front office and give it to Karen Beeman, and she will get it to us. This is very important for us to know how to best take care of your student while they are here at school. Okay. This is what that card looks like, just in case you are searching for it in your email. Allergies. If your student does have an allergy, especially a life-threatening allergy, we need to know what the cause of that allergy is, and specifically if your student has an allergy action plan that involves specific medications or an epinephrine injector. We have specific forms that will need to be completed and signed by the parent and the healthcare provider for such plans. Also, we do not allow students to self-carry any medication on campus. So all epinephrine auto-injectors or EpiPens will be kept in the clinic at all times. That means that the parents will need to bring the medication to campus with the required forms that I'll talk about in just a minute. Also, just a reminder that Legacy is a peanut-free campus. We have several students who have peanut allergies. We try our best to strictly prohibit sharing of food at school, but just please do not send peanuts or peanut products with your child to school. Medication authorization forms. With regards to medication, we prefer that all doses of medication be given to the student at home, if at all possible. But medication that must be given on campus on a regular basis will require a medication authorization form, which is available in the family handbook, or you can get a copy at the front desk, or if you email a request to healthservices@legacypca.org, we would be happy to send you an attachment of that form. One form is needed for each medication that you bring. You'll notice on one side of the form is specifically for prescription medications. The other side of the form is for over-the-counter non-prescription medications. The difference being, if you bring a prescription medication, a physician or healthcare provider will need to sign that form. Non-prescription over-the-counter medications only require a parent signature. You will bring that completed form to campus with the medications in their original labeled bottle to leave in the clinic for your students' use. You will pick up that medication when your student no longer needs the medication or at the end of the school year. A parent or guardian will need to bring us the medication or take the medication from school. We are not allowed to give medication to students or receive medication from students. Okay. Have some examples of those forms. Asthma. Okay. I would like to talk about students with asthma that require rescue or maintenance inhalers. This is one exception to the no self-carry rule if a student is in middle school or high school. We must know if your student has asthma and requires an inhaler. We must know where they keep their inhaler while they are here on campus, and they will need to demonstrate to Tanya or myself that they know the correct way to use their inhaler. We still require a medication authorization form or an asthma action plan signed by a healthcare provider. If the student is elementary school, we will keep their inhaler in the clinic with us. Because shortness of breath or difficulty breathing are symptoms we are watching for in regards to COVID, we are requiring that any student that feels that they need to use their inhaler, please notify their teacher or one of the healthcare staff that is in the school for an evaluation. So please discuss this with your child if it applies to them, and help reinforce the importance of letting us know if they have any issues while they're here at school. Okay, screening consent form. Another form you will find in the email that I referred to earlier is the screening consent form. The state of Texas requires certain screenings for certain students each year, which is listed on this form. If you have a student that falls in one of the categories listed, please complete the form and send it to campus before the end of September, when we will start our screenings. The cost of screening will be $5 total per student, regardless of the number of screenings required. You can choose to send in your $5 with your completed form, or you can choose to have the charge placed on your financial statement. You may also have your healthcare provider perform the screenings at an annual checkup. In that case, you will just need to provide written documentation of the screening results from your healthcare provider. Okay, immunizations. The state of Texas requires us to keep a record and report immunizations for our students. If you have been contacted by letting you know that we need a new record, please send one into the school before school begins. It'd be very helpful. Okay. So now what if your student gets sick or needs medical attention at school? Student Health Services has someone on campus during regular school hours. We will be there to respond when alerted by the student or a staff member that your student is in need of assistance. If the symptoms are suspicious of being infectious, like with COVID symptoms, we will do our best to give your student a mask and have them escorted into the isolation area for further assessment. We will contact the parent to discuss the symptoms. Using clinical judgment, if we determine it would be best for the student to return home, we require that you come to the campus to pick up your student within an hour of being notified, because we just simply do not have the space to keep your student in isolation for a long period of time. Please understand that at this particular time, it is best for all symptoms to not come to campus in the first place. And that is why we are emphasizing the importance that all students and family members do a self-screening before bringing your student to school in the morning while you're home. The employees at Legacy will be self-screening each day before coming to campus as well. There are certain symptoms like fever, vomiting, diarrhea, productive cough that would prohibit a student from coming to school until symptom-free under existing school policy. And that will be even more important during this time. Other symptoms are not specific indicators of infection, such as nasal congestion or headache or body aches. Because they are not specific, we still need to be made aware of them and may still require students to stay home until symptom-free or until you can visit a healthcare provider and give us documentation that they are not contagious. If your student or someone in your household does test positive for COVID, Legacy must be notified by the family so that we can inform the health department and begin necessary steps to determine and inform close contacts. The current guidelines for who must stay home and for how long are detailed in the family handbook and could change. Or we can answer those questions if you contact health services, since that is kind of a changing line. Please remember that information is still being learned about COVID in particular, so our guidelines will change as that information changes. Student health services can be contacted by emailing healthservices@legacypca.org or by calling the school during school hours. If your student requires assistance outside of normal school hours, such as during extracurricular or athletic activities, we cannot guarantee that one of the student health services staff will be on campus. So please make sure that your coaches or coordinators are aware if your student has a condition that may need medical attention, and we can help you communicate that as well to the people that would need to know that information. Okay, that is all I have for you for now. I will be happy to answer any questions or try my best to help you find answers to any questions you have. I am really looking forward to getting back to school and seeing you and your families and meeting all the new families we have here this year.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Prazak. I think what we're going to do now is we'll ask you to hold your questions because you may have some for our next two guests. Because there seems to be so much mystery and intrigue and panic, honestly, about COVID and how not to get it and what have you. I've mentioned before that I know several people who have had it. I have an extended family member that has had it, and I've heard lots of testimonials about them, and I thought it might help to put some of you at ease if you could hear from people that have had it, people within our own Legacy community. So I have two brave souls who have agreed to join us today and talk with you. So the first one is Jenny Moyer, who is a teacher at Legacy, and I'm going to ask her to just tell you a little bit about her story, and then Meredith Sipko will go next, and then we'll take questions after that. So Jenny Moyer.
Okay. My grandparents live near Central Florida, and my grandmother had some surgery this spring, and she was having a hard time recovering. So she said, "Would you come stay with me for a few days?" And I said, "Man, I sure want to, but if I accidentally brought you the virus, I would be sick about it, and so I can't right now." So time passed, and things seemed to open up a little bit again, and she was still having a hard time. So she said, "Will you come?" And I said, "Yeah, I will." So I took my two girls, who are 9 and 3, and we showed up at their house on a Friday, and my grandfather had said he had a cold. He was also running a fever, but he's almost 96. He'll be 96 next month, so that's not unusual for him from time to time to have a cold. So we showed up on a Friday. We were there for a couple of hours, and then he said, "I need to go to the ER." And so he tested positive for COVID a few hours after we arrived. So I called my husband, who was back here in Texas, and I said, "Here's what happened. You know, all the guidelines as we think they read are that we need to quarantine for 14 days. I can't make it home without stopping for the restroom and some gas, so I don't think I can come home for 14 days because I would then take my exposure elsewhere, I think. I'm not sure, but that's what I think. So we decided that I would quarantine there at my grandparents' house with my girls. And so the next day, my grandmother's she's still not doing better. She's getting worse. She needs to go to the ER. She tests positive. So my grandfather stayed in the hospital and was treated with 5 shots, 5 days worth of remdesivir. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Right. And he stayed in the hospital, and the hospital sent my grandmother home. So her main symptom was nausea. She never ran a fever. She's 89. He's 95, almost 96. Nausea that wouldn't leave her alone. She was so uncomfortable. Nausea. But no fever, no shortness of breath, no respiratory issues. My grandfather had a fever and was weak and achy. And so my mom had come to visit too. So now we had 4 generations of family there stuck for 14 days. And we, on day 11, my mom started a fever before I did. Day 11, I woke up and I had a pretty good fever. It was almost 102 both days. And I had a fever for 2 days that came with achiness. And day 3, my fever was gone, but I had some really heavy congestion that was not moving. It was stuck. And I lost my sense of smell, and my mom lost smell and taste. Hers were very similar to mine, very different than my grandmother's. She had no fever, none of the other things that we had. It showed up differently in us. But my mom and I had sort of similar. 2 days of fever, and it turned into sinus congestion, loss of smell and taste. So really that was sort of the end of my symptoms that abated over a couple days, and I have 100% energy back. I still can't smell anything, but I hear that will come. So, and it's an odd sensation when you put on some really great lotion and nothing. So, but it's going to come back. I know it's going to be fine.
And then what about your children?
Oh, so my 2 girls, we were in it with my grandmother. I'm telling you, we had to do everything for her for a long time, and we tried to wash our hands a lot, but there was no avoiding it. And my girls were right in the mix, helping. They were good little nurses, and they have 0 symptoms, nothing. No change in energy, no, we were checking for fever, nothing. And so I don't know. I don't know if we never got them tested, so I don't know if they would have tested positive or not. They were certainly exposed. At the same level my mom and I were, and we had symptoms and they did not.
Okay.
So we lengthened our quarantine until then my quarantine was over. We spent a good long time in Florida, and we're back, ready for school.
All right, from one hot spot to another.
That's right.
Okay, so thank you, Jenny. So then Meredith Sipko is going to share her story.
So I didn't have it, but my daughter Audrey, she got it from summer camp. So this was back the 2nd week of June, very kind of early in the summer. We knew the risk that we were getting into by sending her to summer camp. I mean, lots of stereotypes from friends and going, I can't believe you're sending her. But at that time, we didn't know anyone that had tested positive, and so we kind of knew our risks. We knew she was healthy, and so we sent her to summer camp. She had a great week, but we went to pick her up, and you could tell the car line was moving a little slower, and you could see one of the administration guys kind of talking to each car. And I remember that feeling of just kind of the heart beating a little faster, and I told my husband, I said, something's up. And so we pulled up, and the counselor said that they were making everyone pick up their kids by remaining in their cars for pickup. They were changing it, and they had 4 counselors test positive, and to kind of watch your child for the next couple of weeks. And at that time, that was mostly the boys' camp. There was nothing in the girls' camp. And so we kind of felt a little bit more lenient with Audrey, but we picked her up, and as soon as we picked her up, she was tired. But she had also been at summer camp for a week and telling me, she's been staying up till 1:30. So we drove her home. This was on Saturday. I would say early afternoon, she started running a very low-grade fever. Like she seemed kind of wiped. But we had her on the couch, and so I took her temperature. The entire time that she had symptoms, the highest her temperature ever got was 99.4. And she had temperature for about 24 hours, so Saturday into Sunday afternoon. One of her other biggest symptoms was a headache. She kind of had that congestion that just said her head hurt, and so she was watching TV. Also, this whole time, we're also thinking, but she just got picked up from summer camp. You know, I'm talking with some other girlfriends that their kids were at summer camp, and their kids were having kind of the same symptoms. So we didn't think anything big of it then. So we picked her up Saturday, so now we're Sunday afternoon, and I had made some little like granola bar that she likes, and she didn't eat much of it. And up until this point, she had been eating totally normal. And I said, I thought you liked these granola bars. And she said, I do. She said, but it just doesn't taste right. And she said, and you know what? The banana I had yesterday didn't taste like a banana. And I was like, okay, you know, register that. So Sunday evening, she came down. We had dinner, symptom-free now Sunday evening. So 24 hours of symptoms. Monday morning, she wakes up. She bounces out of bed, full energy back, and she's ready to go to volleyball. And I went in, my husband was getting ready for work, and I just told him, I said, I cannot in my right mind send her to volleyball knowing what I know. I said, I would just feel better having a negative COVID test. So called Texas Children's, they got us, you know, I did the little online visit, and they got us right in for a test that Monday morning. And then they called at like 10:30 that night. My doctor called, and he said she was his first positive COVID test, which I still think we should get like a t-shirt with that or something. And so he said she tested positive for it. And so that was now Monday night. And by the way, kind of backtrack, we did not let her go to volleyball on Monday. She stayed home. And so we were watching her symptoms. But she was totally fine, symptom-free. And so it was hard. I mean, at that time, we had had a couple of months that I just watch it on the news, didn't know how serious this was going to be or how I would feel. I don't know. It just really brought it to home very quickly, and didn't sleep a lot that night. And so I don't know. I felt scared because you'd seen all the stuff on the news. I felt embarrassed. I didn't know if I wanted to tell people. And I do. I don't know if I'm supposed to go into all my God story, but I woke up the next morning. Audrey had been in bed, so I still hadn't even told Audrey. And I had a long, quiet time with God. And he gave me this sense of peace of going, this is not the end of the world. Like this, I've got this. And I talked to Audrey when she woke up, and her response was A-okay. And I said, are you okay if I tell people? Can I share your story? And she had no problem with it. She was like, absolutely. And so kind of during that time, we started telling people. Obviously, we quarantined our entire family, stayed home for 2 weeks. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a smotherer. So, I mean, we quarantined Audrey. She kind of sat at her own nut-free table. I like that. But she still had dinner in the same room with us. I mean, we watched movies together. Her and Eric, I mean, we were in the car together. I mean, I rode to the doctor with her. I mean, I'm a smotherer. So anyway, but we all quarantined for 2 weeks. My husband, myself, my son, none of us ever had any symptoms. Also in that same time frame, because I was shocked when Audra asked us to kind of give a testimony, because I know probably 30 to 40 people at least that have had it. Mm-hmm. And I know that a lot of people are not in that same situation, but I kind of think that's the God thing that has come through this is as more people we started sharing with, I felt like people became comfortable telling me. And so of just going, okay, here's some symptoms. Where did you go? How did you handle this? And so I may know a lot of people. And also during that 2 week time frame, I learned of some really good friends that I had happy houred with and shared appetizers. So I was more than exposed than just from Audrey during that 2 week period. And I never had any symptoms. And this whole time, I don't know. I think that has given us peace in telling people, because we had our summer vacation, and I am constantly surprised at how many people still hear, oh, your daughter had COVID, and they kind of want to like back their chair up, and I get that, and that's their reaction, and I don't want to be unsympathetic to people that have had a different story, but I also at that same time kind of want to be a force for good in saying, you know what, we had it, and we had an okay situation, like I would absolutely do so. Oh, I love the people that are like, would you ask for a refund for summer camp? Absolutely not. My daughter had a great week, loved it. We did learn of a lot more cases that came from that same week, and so I mean it spreads, but it was very doable on our part.
All right, so thank you, Meredith and Jenny. I understood if nobody wanted to share that, but I'm with Meredith. I like I said, I probably know a good, I would say closer to 75 people just through church and my families and extended families that live out of town, and lots of I hate to tell y'all, but lots of students have had it or been exposed to it. So, and which is why I said in the beginning, we're ready for that. We're expecting that someone at some point, teacher or student, is going to test positive for it. So, you guys, I'm assuming you understand that risk since you're willing to send your kids here. So, let's just speak the truth and talk about it up front, which is why I wanted you to be able to hear from people who had actually, experienced it. Okay, so y'all did so good being on time again. All right, so we have several minutes where we could take some questions. Meredith, you're looking all fancy. That's good.
Oh, you
Okay.
like that? Oh, I love it. Thanks, Jana.
All right, any questions specifically about any of our processes for COVID? I know Joanna covered a whole bunch of medical issues, and I do think she covered the allergy issue. There was a question about allergies. I think she covered that. I guess the other thing I would mention quickly, we said yesterday in new co-teacher training that the TEA, as I said, did change their guidelines again, and one of the things that they've done is now they're leaving the definition of exposed to COVID basically up to our local health department. So the verbiage is something along the lines of, you have been exposed to COVID when you have been within 6 feet of someone, and it specifically says someone who is infected and has coughed or sneezed on you. It specifically says those two things. Or if you have been in 6 feet of someone without a mask, well, actually it doesn't say anything about the masks. What it says is if you've been within 6 feet of someone who's been diagnosed for longer than 15 minutes. Then the little caveat underneath that says, unless you're sitting apart and or you're outside, or there's all these other ors that come after it, and then it says, call the health department and they'll tell you whether or not you've been exposed. So I'm not sure how that's going to look when school starts. I can't imagine that every school is going to pick up the phone and call the health department and give them every scenario of, someone who's been exposed, but they are giving us a lot of leeway, I guess, in deciding, what is the particular situation. So that's one of the big changes that came through the other day from the TEA, and I'm supposing that usually when they make those changes, it's because they're looking at the CDC and trying to stay along the same path as the CDC. All right, FOIL. Melanie, that is not a COVID question. Yes, I do believe that FOIL will resume. I had a conversation with Katie yesterday, I think, and she is trying to find a location for that. Because they've pushed our athletics back, the gym is not going to be available during the time when it normally would be. So she's trying to find a church that might allow some practice sessions. I do know that she already has a play in mind that she's going to do. It sounds great. I think she actually has 2 that she's figured out. So as soon as we know the details to those, we will share that. And I think the play that she's got in mind actually allows the kids to kind of social distance from one another. So yes, we're working on that. If the mask mandate lifts mid-quarter with mask wearing, whenever the mask mandate lifts, we're lifting it as well. We're going to follow whatever the mandate is. So if the mandate goes away, the masks here go away unless your student just wants to continue to wear them. Okay. I don't think there were any other questions that I had written down that we didn't get to answer before. If there are things that you think of when this is all over with, you can email me and I'll do my best to answer your question. But other than that, I think if there's anything, unless you guys want to add anything. Joanna? No?
I mean,
Okay.
and if anyone wants to ask
Okay.
me
Yeah.
any questions personally, feel free.
Okay, so if y'all want to specifically talk with Meredith or Jenny, just email me and I can put you in touch with them, so. Okay, all right, well, it looks like that's it, that's awesome. Just again, we'll tell you one more time, we truly are praying for you, we're praying for the school year. We're fearless. We are fearless. We're so tired of talking about the what ifs and all the precautions. We're just ready to let's get down to brass tacks. We're ready to see our kids. Can't wait to spend some time with them. I know they're ready to come back, and I really do think, regardless of all this COVID and everything else, this is going to be a great year. So can't wait to see you guys. We're going to be praying for you, and 17th can't come soon enough. So all right, thank you everybody.